Hello there, my name's Brandon and I make pictures out of tiny squares. And in this video we're going to take a look at the character sprite work from the platformer game Strider 2. The interesting thing about this game is that it employs a mix of visual styles, where most of the environmental work uses 3D polygonal models with pixelated textures, and the character work being 2D pixelated sprites. Coincidentally, we've been starting to see more examples of that sort of mixed media approach again, like some of the recent HD 2D Square Enix releases of the past couple years. But back in the PS1 days, all I remember thinking was that Strider 2 looked really cool and stylish, kind of like it was this next evolution from the previous 8 and 16-bit platformers. Just for a bit of context, Strider is one of those games that's had many incarnations over the years. First as an arcade title in 1989, and then a bunch of console ports and sequels. And I really like the original arcade design. It's got kind of these pastel-y colors. And then in the following years, the presentation kind of meanders through a few different presentations with the white costume and different graphical styles depending on the platform. And by the time we hit the Marvel vs. Capcom and Strider 2 era around 1999, it's a strong return to form that evokes the original arcade costuming, but with the style cranked way up. What I like about the sprite work of Strider 2 is that it approximates the kind of stylization we see in the Marvel vs. Capcom sprite, but in a smaller size. In Strider 2, the main protagonist Hiryu is about 70 pixels tall. Of course, that's just the height of their idle pose, just to give an idea of the general scale here. But Hiryu is a very agile character, and we'll of course catch him in a wide range of poses through all the jumping, crouching, and climbing in this game. On top of that, the game uses a dynamic camera for a very cinematic feel, where it'll actually zoom out to give you a wider view of the action at times, and thereby also reduces the pixel density of the sprite on screen at the time. On paper, this would seem like a very blasphemous thing to do with such beautiful sprite work, but given how quickly you move through the subsections of a level, it's actually a really entertaining effect and brings an ever-changing sense of scale into the levels. Even with this dynamic camera thing playing its tricks, the character sprite remains quite readable throughout. And I think a big reason for this is because of the nice balance in their costuming. We can see there's a lot of detail work and a mix of colors on the chest, and this is contrasted by the plain coloring for the pants. Our eyes are naturally drawn to the areas of detail like the upper body and the wraps near the hands and the feet, which means we're able to get a quick read on the character when they're moving through all sorts of extreme poses in a short time. Somewhat related to this is that a lot of the action poses end up in these sort of triangular gestures, which is effective in reinforcing a fast and aggressive appearance. The cherry on top, so to speak, is the red scarf that follows through that motion to indicate some directionality as well. So overall, there's a lot of factors working in favor of readability here. So that mostly concerns some of the broad stylistic choices, but I also wanted to highlight the care in smaller details like with the hands. I don't know if you've ever tried to make pixel art hands before, but it's honestly one of the most challenging things in this art form, especially when going for somewhat realistic proportion in a small space like this. So what we see here is that the hands are composed from a 5-color palette. They've separated the fingers as colored line work and used a technique of highlighting the surface or detail closest to the viewer. Like if the hand is rotated a particular way, it'll be that side of the hand or a group of fingers facing the camera that get the brightest highlight. On the other hand, the hand on the far side of the sprite, when it's visible, generally doesn't step into the brightest color of the palette, and instead just uses the remaining colors so that it doesn't pull too much attention and kind of retains that scheme of light to dark to create depth. Some of my favorite examples here are the ones where the fingers are pointed directly at the camera. So you get these single pixel highlights for each of the fingertips, and then the shade colors kind of do the rest to convey the area of the palm over to the thumb. All of these, by the way, are only in a space of around 10 by 10 pixels. And they were just executed so well that I thought they should be given a proper spotlight for just being their own little works of art within the overall sprite itself. I've also pulled in a couple enemy designs as well, just because I thought they had some great examples of materials rendering. The first here is Solo, who's got this full metal armor suit thing going on with these kind of like sharp razor-like detailing to it. This metallic look mainly uses 6 steps of color, and then an even darker tone for a sort of separating line work. In creating the highlights, kind of like with the hands that we just looked at, there'll just be a few spots, either points of inflections or things closest to the viewer that receive that highlight tone. And then outward from that, it steps down through the palette to create these specular metallic highlights. The other thing to note is that when we view these colors in grayscale, you can see that their value steps down in a somewhat linear fashion. This is kind of the key thing to think about when creating color gradients, that there's this underlying contrast that's working in favor of the desired readability. And this is especially the case when approaching something like steel, where you're going to step over a wide range of dark to light tones. So setting up a good contrast scheme like this, you could really apply any color to it, and you're still going to get that strong metallic look. And the next enemy up is Admiral Wilhelm. Now, if you recall, with Hiryu, we had a lot of attention on the upper torso and the hands and the feet. And with Wilhelm, I think the balance is kind of shifted here. We've got these metal legs being quite a unique part of the character design, and so there's interesting details drawing our eye to that spot. Like we have these texture lines for the paneling, and kind of interesting silhouettes along the individual pieces that make up the legs. This is balanced out by the green coat, which has its fair amount of detail and trimming as well, but overall the green areas feel like much broader clustering compared to the leg detail. And it seems to really ground the character, makes them seem heavy, sturdy, kind of firmly planted compared to the agile Hiryu. On top of that, these two characters have very contrasting color schemes, and this makes for a pretty iconic matchup. Alright, well that'll do it for this look at Strider 2. I feel like a good deal of this was kind of like an appreciation post too, but I hope you enjoyed it as well. So thank you for watching, and take care and keep it square.